Good morning. A very warm welcome to everyone attending our info session on the Horizon Europe missions, with the focus on the ocean and soil missions. My name is Tereza Budňáková, and together with Bernd Bierwelt, we will moderate this session. To present myself briefly, I'm the Deputy Head of the Unit Research and Innovation in Directorate General for Agriculture and Rural Development of the European Commission, and our unit is in charge of co-programming the Cluster 6 together, of course, with other services of the Commission. I'm very happy to be here with you today, and I'm very much looking forward to our exchanges. Now I would give the floor to Bernd so that he can also briefly introduce himself.
Thank you, Tereza, and good morning, colleagues in Europe and outside Europe. So my name is Bernd Bierwelt. I'm working in DG Research and Innovation, heading the unit on ecological and social transitions, and we are within the Director General in charge of making sure the coordination of Cluster 6, and happy to co-chair with Tereza this session this morning. Back to you, Tereza.
Thank you, Bernd. Before we start, please note that we would like to invite you to ask your questions via Slido. Also, we would like to invite you to upvote the questions which you consider most interesting. So to access Slido, please go to the www.sli.do, insert the hashtag SL6InfoDay to join our event, and select the room on the missions on oceans and soil. Or you can simply scan the QR code, which you are now seeing on the screen, and select the appropriate room. Today we have reserved about 30 minutes for the Q&A session in the second part of today. And we will also take, of course, as many questions as possible given the time we have. But however, due to the time constraints, some questions might remain unanswered. And in this case, you are kindly requested to send them to the Research Inquiry Service, and we will reply there to you in written. The most relevant questions or the repetitive questions will be also included in the FAQ section on the Funding and Tenders portal. And of course, after the event, you can also liaise with your national contact points in your respective countries. Next slide, please. So in the next few slides, with Bernd, we would like to present to you a general frame to complement also the information provided already yesterday. As you know, the EU missions are one of the key novelties of Horizon Europe program. We consider them actually as commitments to solve some of the greatest challenges our world is facing, like fighting cancer, adapting to climate change, protecting our oceans, living in greener cities, and ensuring soil health. Missions have their own work program in Horizon Europe. However, there are no specific info days which will be organized for missions. And this is why we have introduced this dedicated session in the cluster info days. And for instance, topics supporting the cities and climate missions have already been presented in cluster 5 info days. So in this session, after a brief introduction of the horizontal mission topics, we will focus on 2 missions: ocean, seas and waters, and the mission in the area of soil health and food. Now I would like to hand over to Bernd to provide further details.
Many thanks, Tereza. And if you could move to the next slide, please. In terms of the time schedule, what we wanted to tell you here at this stage is that, as probably most of you have seen and know, that the first work program of Horizon Europe for the years 21-22 has been just published on the 16th of June. And it includes a set of action which lays the foundations for the implementation of the missions. Each mission has in this program a small number of actions with a total budget of up to 5 million. And they are addressing urgent priorities and enhancing the potential for rapidly scaling up the investment after the conclusion of this preparatory phase we are currently launching. Just a couple of days ago, end of June, the college, so the College of Commissioners, has finally given the political go-ahead to begin concretely the preparations for the missions of the work program, and then to have the full launch of the implementation phase by the end of this year. And we expect a final approval of the few outstanding issues in the month of September. I'm very happy to see that Neville Reeve, our colleague, is with us, who has been one of the main drivers, and if I may say so, also fathers of this project, and he will speak a little bit later on the horizontal aspects of this endeavor. We expect that a further update will happen in 22, so next year, to cover actions for 22. As Teresa already indicated, at this session, we would like to focus specifically on the calls for two missions, so the ocean, seas and waters, and the healthy soil and food missions. Those of you who might have already listened in the info days for Cluster 5, which were taking place a little bit earlier this week, the missions in particular on cities and climate adaptation were already introduced, and that's why we wanted to focus more here on the two missions, and which are also on substance closer related to Cluster 6. Coming back to the work program, the mission on ocean includes the CSA call to prepare for the deployment of lighthouse demonstrators and solution scales up, and also cross-cutting citizens and stakeholder involvement. The mission on soil and food includes the CSA to prepare the ground for healthy soils, building capacities for engagement, outreach, and knowledge. In addition to these specific preparatory actions, the work program you will have seen contains a number of horizontal actions supporting their implementation, such as to help the countries across the EU and beyond to engage with missions. For the Q&A sessions, we would very much welcome if questions could be related to these two particular missions, which are, as I said, closer related to Cluster 6. And for the horizontal parts, we have Neville, who's certainly very willing and available to reply also on the more horizontal issues. That's from my side, Teresa, and back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernd. Yes, so now we are going to listen to 3 presentations, and then we will open the Q&A session. I would like to remind you that you can continue asking your questions, and we invite you also to upvote the questions which you consider most interesting. So I would like now to invite Neville Reeve to present the horizontal actions. Please, Neville, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, and thank you also to Bernd for that nice covering of where we are at the moment, which I think puts us in an incredibly exciting position, frankly. We're on the track now. We've passed through a lot of amber lights. We can see ahead a green light round about the start of September, which will really signify the starting point for our missions work. And it's been quite a while coming to this point, of course, a huge effort right the way across the Commission. I guess people aren't interested necessarily in that, but why it's important is the fact that it really does bring together the policies, funding streams that can really make these missions work. But it's not just about what the Commission does, and this is what I want to talk about for a moment here. If we are successful with these missions, we really need to see them as something that will benefit hugely from the contributions that come from member states and associated countries. The topics are huge, or the subjects of these missions are huge: cancer, restoring soil, cleaning the oceans, etc. Huge issues. And plainly, they will, succeed if we bring together not just what we do, but what is done at the member states level as well. But of course, we can't program there. We can't instruct this sort of effort to be carried out. What we can do, though, is we can set in place structures which will help exchange information, which will bring a commitment from these other countries towards the missions which we have, which will be channels for communication of the officials involved there. And overall, where we see it longer term, of course, we can see it as part of an effort to create a portfolio of different contributions which will make those missions succeed. What we can do in Brussels with the Research Innovation Programme, of course, but other programmes, is to give it that huge impetus. But we really will benefit if we can draw on those contributions from beyond, from the national level and the local and regional level. Huge potential there to be tapped into. So this is precisely what this network is all about. It's a horizontal action, creating a core network, and the tasks, as I've already said, they're about helping align where possible between the national, regional, and local levels, exchanging good practice on how these efforts and funding can contribute to the mission's objectives, facilitating their engagement, also mapping funding streams at those different levels, including civil society organizations and institutions, mapping what's actually carried out there. And I think what we have to be, ambitious about is we've already put together quite a complex and comprehensive new governance model inside the Commission, which will support this. We have already the support of the member states and associated countries through the Horizon Europe Strategic Programme Committee. But what we're trying to do with this network is go beyond that. It's not just about research and innovation. So this network should bring together ministries, national agencies, regional and local actors, not necessarily just from research and innovation, but all of those potentially able to contribute. We've put in the call text a couple of suggestions or requirements, really, because they should deliver specific events. We've identified two which we think would be good. One would be an event created to citizens' engagement, because this has been so important in the work which has been done to actually lead up to where we are now. We've created missions which speak to citizens and their role, their potential ongoing role, helping set priorities, monitoring performance is going to be so important. So we've suggested an event there. We look to the proposers to talk about how often that could be created, and also, of course, where it could be created and the specific modalities of it. And the other one we suggested could be an annual missions fair, and this is all about joining together different sources of funding. We've suggested ERC, EIC, industry, charities, the European Investment Bank, among others, across these different thematic areas, really to, if you like, integrate those different sources of funding, potentially, and also for supporting the whole principle of innovation across the missions. So that's all I have to say. It's a horizontal network. It will create the basis, we hope, heading towards something which we would like to think of as a multi-level governance, which will support the missions going way beyond research and innovation and really engaging at the national, local, and regional levels. So thank you very much indeed.
Yes, thank you very much, Neville, for this very comprehensive overview. I would like now to invite Helena Meyer to present the topic supporting the ocean mission. Helena, the floor is yours.
Welcome to the information session about Horizon Europe Mission Ocean, Seas and Waters Work Programme 2021. This brief overview will have two parts. In the first one, we will briefly introduce the mission, its objectives, implementation phases and selected activities. In the second part, we will provide an overview of the 2021 Horizon Europe Work Programme, mission-specific topic, Horizon MISS 2021 Ocean 0101, preparation for deployment of lighthouse demonstrators and solution scale-ups and cross-cutting citizen and stakeholder involvement. To begin with, let us recap the main principles at the core of EU missions. EU missions are commitments to solve some of the greatest challenges facing our world, like protecting our ocean and waters. EU missions must be bold and inspirational, have a clear direction, be targeted, measurable, time-bound. They must be ambitious and realistic, spark innovation across disciplines, sectors, and actors, and entail bottom-up approaches working closely with citizens and stakeholders. A mission will operate as a portfolio of actions, such as research projects, implementation actions, policy actions, to achieve a measurable goal that could not be achieved through individual actions. Now to the brief overview of candidate missions objectives and implementation phases. The candidate mission Oceans, Seas, and Waters overall objective is to restore our ocean and waters by 2030 by reaching the European Green Deal targets for biodiversity, zero pollution, and decarbonization with greenhouse gas emissions reduction for 2030 across the oceans, seas, and waters, thereby addressing the three principal drivers of their degradation. The European Union can only fulfill its European Green Deal objectives by restoring the health of the ocean and the waters that flow into it. We rely on healthy water system to maintain rich biodiversity and functioning ecosystems that provide us with oxygen, clean air, drinking water, and food. We rely on a pollution-free water system to ensure the health of our citizens and planet. We rely on a healthy ocean to reach climate neutrality, as the ocean is the planet's important carbon sink, and its resources, wind, tides, and waves provide clean energy. However, marine and freshwater ecosystems are rapidly degrading, and we are destroying our natural capital at an alarming rate. To restore the hydrosphere's health and its essential functions and services, its degradation must be reversed. The mission translates the overall objective, restore our ocean and waters by 2030, into three operational objectives. Protect and restore marine and freshwater ecosystems and biodiversity. Prevent and eliminate pollution of our ocean, seas, and waters, and make sustainable blue economy carbon neutral and circular. To support the three objectives, the mission will put in place two enablers. First, it will foster a digital ocean and water knowledge system with monitoring services to better understand, monitor, and forecast the health of the hydrosphere. Second, it will promote a participatory governance based on public mobilization and engagement, empowering citizens to take action and drive the transitions through deliberative democracy, social innovation, citizen science, and awareness campaigns. The mission comprises two implementation phases with midterm assessment foreseen for 2025. In the first development and piloting phase, 2021 to 2024, foundations will be laid for the implementation of the three mission objectives. Enabling actions will create a basis for future fit for purpose knowledge, monitoring, and forecasting services. The mission will pilot citizen participation and develop and implement training, education, citizen science actions, and citizen engagement in the delivery of the mission. The first phase will put in place, in particular, mission lighthouses, blue parks dedicated to the protection and conservation of marine ecosystems, and the precursor of the ocean and water knowledge ecosystem. In the second deployment and upscaling phase, 2026 to 2030, the solutions piloted in the first phase will be further developed and at the same time replicated and scaled up, enabling broad participation in the mission across the EU. The mission will roll out mission lighthouses as the mission sites in the Atlantic and Arctic coast, Baltic and North Sea Basin, Mediterranean Sea Basin, and Danube River Basin. Mission lighthouses will act as hubs and platforms for the development, demonstration, and deployment of transformative innovations of all forms: technological, social, business, governance in order to reach the 3 specific mission objectives. They will integrate existing knowledge outputs and new knowledge co-designed and co-implemented with citizens and stakeholders, ensuring local business participation and citizen engagement and outreach. To gain initial traction and deliver results quickly, different lighthouses will pilot and lead on one of the mission objectives, capitalizing on established activities and programs and delivery models. The lighthouses will be guided by the principles of replicability and EU-wide scalability. The lighthouses will provide access to solutions, services, and advice developed not only in their basin, but also to all interested actors from other basins and areas, so that the developed solutions can eventually be scaled up and replicated across the Union. Due to the transboundary nature of waters and natural ecosystem continuity, implementation and cooperation will be organized at the scale of sea basins and river basins, so that solutions are effective and resolve shared problems. The lighthouses will build on existing governance structures and will be established through a political implementation charter concluded among relevant member states, European Commission, and other partners. The charter will commit the partners to cooperate and align resources to achieve the mission objectives. The mission should connect Europe's citizens and local communities with the ocean, seas, and waters, provide broad ownership and education, and co-design the transitions in their communities that will allow the European Green Deal targets to be reached. The mission should act as a new tool to pilot deliberative democratic decision-making that will help citizens to co-design the future of Europe, for instance, through a network of citizen assemblies. To empower and activate citizens to take action, the mission should promote the practice of social innovation and ocean and water citizen stewardship, where appropriate, through the voluntary European Solidarity Corps. To promote better public understanding and engagement, the mission should support education and training activities and launch regular citizen science campaigns together with the member states, building on and enhancing the EU's work to date on ocean literacy. Now we will cover the Horizon Europe mission-specific topic, preparation for deployment of lighthouse demonstrators and solutions, scale-ups, and cross-cutting citizen and stakeholder involvement. The aim of the action is to prepare the implementation of Mission Ocean, Seas and Waters with a particular focus on providing support for effective and timely deployment of the mission research and innovation core, and for cross-cutting citizen and stakeholder involvement during the identification, design and implementation of the mission, as well as to prepare the ground for effective mission deployment and for the identification, future scale-up and full deployment of lighthouses. Expected outcomes of the action are improved capacity to identify areas and solutions for effective lighthouses and scale-ups, effective and timely deployment and de-risking of scale-ups, transformative and systemic portfolio approach to solutions addressing the challenges which the ocean, seas and waters are facing, increased awareness of stakeholders and citizens about the mission's objectives, full and early uptake and support of the mission by the member states and associated countries, regions and other stakeholders and citizens. The action comprises items that will support the implementation of the mission lighthouses, particularly development, testing and piloting of methodologies for identified place-based lighthouses, methodologies for running lighthouses, mapping of projects and activities, actors and regions for the lighthouses. Assessment of feasibility of scale-up projects for the 3 mission objectives with systemic perspective and with input of different expertise with multi-actor and multidisciplinary approaches. Preparing for integration of lighthouses with European digital initiatives and development of interconnected lighthouse network to exchange expertise and best practices and cooperation to explore synergies, complementarities and innovations for deployment and scale-up. The actions further comprise development, testing and piloting of methodologies for lighthouses and national hubs to achieve high quality demonstration and efficient preparation for scale-up of innovations and enable cooperation and management of actions and projects with citizens and other relevant stakeholders. Development and piloting of a concept of EU-wide network of citizen stakeholder assemblies, including rollout plan, resources needed, as well as training and qualification requirements for facilitators, and best practices how to manage and resource the network. The actions further comprise mapping and facilitating synergies in support of reaching mission objectives within a number of mentioned initiatives, providing a visionary visual examples tailor-made to various audiences of what successful lighthouses could bring to communities in terms of public goods. The indicative budget is 5 million euros. The actions entail possible participation of the Joint Research Center. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Helena, for this very interesting and comprehensive presentation on the ocean mission. I would like now to invite Marta Iglesias to present the topic supporting the soil mission. Marta, the floor is yours.
Hello, it's my pleasure to present the EU mission in the area of soil health and food, and the first topic under this mission work program called Preparing the Ground for Healthy Soils, Building Capacities for Engagement, Outreach and Knowledge. In my first slide, you'll see that soils are the basis for our life. If soils are healthy and sustainable managed, they will provide food, clean water, habitats for biodiversity, and other important services. We take these services for granted, but in fact, the high-level experts of the Soil Health and Food Mission Board have calculated that between 60 to 70% of soils in the EU are unhealthy and under pressure. This is due to a range of human activities, such as intensive land use, production and consumption patterns, and expansion of urban sites, on top of pressures due to climate change. This is why the Soil Health and Food Mission comes very timely with a vision to establish a pathway towards 75% of healthy soils in Europe by 2030. Based on the proposed goals and objectives stated in the Mission Board report, Caring for Soils is Caring for Life, the Commission has developed an implementation plan for the mission. Our goal is to ensure that 75% of European soils are healthy by 2030 for food, people, nature, and climate. The implementation plan allows for a certain degree of flexibility to reflect the particular situation of each member state in relation to soil health, including measures in measuring improvement relative to baseline set by each member state. In the next slide, you'll see that our mission has 8 objectives, which will make sure that we will reach our goal. These objectives will support soil health and reduce land degradation in the EU, while making sure to reach the global footprint of the EU, to reduce the global footprint of the EU food and timber imports. Additionally, we aim to improve soil literacy in all member states for all citizens. We want to achieve these objectives via actions across all types of land use, sectors, and value chains, and as drivers for soil health. The proposed 8 objectives have clear impact on how soils function and the ecosystem services they provide. The process of soil degradation affects soil's function, such as their capacity to store carbon or to filter contaminants, risking that pollutants may enter into the ground or the food chain and put at risk food safety, making societies more vulnerable to extreme weather events, food insecurity and contamination, and political instability. The next slide describes the mission vision for research and innovation to accelerate Europe's transition towards sustainable soil management and restoration as a part of a wider green transition in rural and urban areas, supported by monitoring framework and citizen engagement. Maintaining and restoring soil health is a major societal endeavor, fully in line with the concept of the European missions. It requires transformative changes in practices by all sectors of society across all types of land uses and scales in a joined-up manner. We have identified 4 operational objectives that will allow us to make the mission a reality. The objective 1 is the Research and Innovation Program, which will allow us to build capacities and knowledge base for soil stewardship. Within the operational objective number 2, we will co-create and upscale place-based innovations to support soil health in all places. For this, we want to establish 100 living labs and lighthouses to provide the spaces for collaboration between relevant partners at regional or sub-regional level. The third operational objective is based on developing an integrated EU soil monitoring system and track progress towards soil health. As the success of the mission depends on actions taken by citizens and soil literacy, our operational objective 4 will plan to engage with the soil user community and society at large. In the next slide, I will present this first operational objective number 1, which will contribute to increase our understanding and knowledge of basic processes within the soil, its driver and mechanisms that affect its properties in line with the mission objectives, and our capacity to act on land management and other drivers of soil health. It will make an effort to integrate existing knowledge on soil health and its drivers within different socioeconomic and cultural contexts with different disciplines, sectors, and land uses. The proposed research program will synthesize, share, and exchange scientific knowledge, technical and practitioners' knowledge, and will generate new knowledge, methods, practice, and technologies for soil health. The living laboratories and lighthouses are the core element of the mission. Through them, we will plan to address the need to close the science-practice gap and look for co-development and upscale of innovation that are adapted to the diversity of soil, geographic and socioeconomic conditions. The living labs and lighthouses will transform existing and new knowledge developed in the operational objective number 1 into innovations with real impact, a high potential for rapid uptake by land managers and other relevant actors across Europe. Living labs are understood as collaboration between several partners that operate at regional or sub-regional level and coordinate experimentations on several sites. Lighthouses are places for demonstration of solutions, training and communications that are extremely important and exemplary in their performance in terms of soil health improvement. Activities under this operational objective will address the urgency to scale up capacities in the EU to monitor soil and to do so in a harmonized way. Soil health monitoring is a key component of the mission, in particular because current soil monitoring at EU level is hampered by inadequate or inactive soil monitoring programs in many member states, which results in a lack of data to assess policies options. The mission will act as facilitator of the process for generating data, filling knowledge gaps, and developing robust methods and tools for soil monitoring and for evaluating the effects of soil management measures. Under the fourth operational objective, the mission will increase the awareness of the importance of soils and provide more targeted advice and education in the area. Mission activities will foster soil education across society, engage with municipalities and regions to design their own strategies and actions for the protection of soil health, and engage with the private sector and consumers to embed soil health in business practices. Finally, the mission will establish 4 key elements: a network for coordination of living labs and lighthouses, knowledge and data hub to synthesize, process, and make accessible the outcomes of research and innovation activities to various target audiences in cooperation with the European Union Soil Observatory. It will establish a mechanism to support the monitoring work with member states. And finally, it will provide finance assistance and advice facility for small and medium enterprises and impact-driven soil investors. In the next slide, I will concentrate now in the first topic of the mission work program, which will go in the direction of preparing the ground for the development of the mission by building capacities for engagement, outreach, and knowledge. As you know, healthy soils are at the heart of the European Green Deal and its ambitions for a green, fair, and just Europe. Healthy lives and healthy environment depend on healthy soils. The mission will contribute to the achievement of several EU strategies and policy documents, such as the new soil farm to fork biodiversity and climate adaptation strategies, as well as the zero pollution and the organic plants and the EU Soil Observatory. This first topic of the Mission Work Programme will ease the development of the mission by increasing networking and knowledge exchange at regional and local level. This will provide access to available information, data and resources for all sectors of society. It will contribute to the mission objectives, the 8 mission objectives, by enhancing opportunities for training and education on soil health. Finally, it will contribute to the creation of virtual communities using social media and other digital tools. Regarding the scope of the activities of this topic, actions will support the creation of living labs and lighthouses by identifying, in close cooperation with regional authorities, stakeholders, and communities, existing soil needs for different land uses. This will be a starting point for recommendations on priorities, action, and activities to be implemented in the living labs and the lighthouses. Supporting networking and knowledge exchange of communities, including mapping of current and emerging living labs and lighthouses for different types and uses. Insight for developing business model plans for living labs and lighthouses in different regions and land uses. There will be also activities in support to monitoring soil health, which will improve harmonization and ability of soil data and knowledge on soil indicators. Finally, the activities will support to connect existing online resources and to provide a single access point, a one-stop shop in each member state. The material will target different groups and promote good examples of soil education, social innovation to increase the understanding by the public at large. And in the next slide, I just want to thank you for your attention.
Yes, thank you very much, Marta, for your clear presentation on this very interesting and important topic. Let me now open the Q&A part. My colleagues will now present on the screen the questions which arrived in the meantime through Slido. Again, I would like to remind you that you can continue asking your questions. We have already many of them and we are very happy. So please don't be shy and continue asking your questions. So, the first question will go to Helena, as it's on the ocean mission. And Carolina is asking, how are the lighthouses in the Horizon Ocean mission linked to the future activities of the Sustainable Blue Economy Partnership? So Helena, if you could please answer this question.
Morning. Thank you for the question. Indeed, there are synergies between the activities of the mission and the Sustainable Blue Economy Partnership. And this is also the case already for the first topic. And for the future, these synergies will be fostered. The mission as well as the Blue Economy Partnership would expect to further cooperate on these activities in order to reinforce the synergies and particularly make sure that results of research actions as well as any development and piloting are exchanged and that we are working jointly towards the same or similar objectives, namely making our ocean and waters healthy and restoring them.
Thank you very much. That was very clear. Now I would go to the second question, and this is for Annette, because it relates to the soil health mission. How do you expect that regions will be concretely involved in the soil health mission? Annette, please. Yes, Annette, you have to unmute.
Yes, sorry. So there's two elements. How will regions be involved in general and in particular in this topic? So in general, in the living labs, so we say like 100 living labs, but each living lab, in fact, is composed of various sites, around 10 sites, for example. This means that we're not looking at one living lab, which is one particular location, but it's really a regional context. And for these regional contexts, we have foreseen in the topic that we establish the needs, the soil needs, as we call it, in this regional subset, that we develop a picture of what are the main priorities we need to tackle. in this as a basis to encourage action by the different actors to build up living labs and lighthouses and establish the partnerships. So this is one of the main elements. The second one is, of course, we want to have good coverage of regions. So we will have to engage very closely with the network of regions. The Committee of Regions, for example, is a very good basis to see that we cover relevant regions, less developed ones, geographic coverages, but also socioeconomic coverage. So all this will be done in engagement sessions.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Annette. That was also very clear. So now I would like to move to the next question, which is of horizontal nature, and that would be for Neville then. Are the implementation plans for each mission publicly available? When will they be published? Please, Neville.
Thank you for that question. We prepared the implementation plans as internal commission documents. They served a particular purpose of getting this engagement and agreement to proceed. However, we do understand, of course, there's going to be a lot of interest in these. We're looking at several options. One could be to include the plans or maybe an edited version, because a lot of this, what's in the plan, is probably rather technical, internal stuff. Including those as part of a communication which we are going to prepare to launch the missions, and that should come out in the middle part of September. Or we could put them on our website. I think in either model, we will, as I say, look at the documents we have and make some changes and make them in a form which, of course, is very much more readable and accessible for a wide audience. But we haven't quite worked it out yet, but we do understand the interest.
Yes, very clear. Thank you, Neville. So now the next question is for Helena, again on the ocean mission, how to develop linkages and synergies between missions such as ocean mission and ocean topics in cluster 6. So slightly relevant also to the previous question. Helena, please.
Thank you. So the mission will further portfolio approach, as we have explained. So it will be building on existing and previous work, also on what is in the current work program, because all these topics are obviously also relevant to the future mission objectives. And also the mission topic, mission-specific topic, consists of methodologies which will help us to build portfolios, to run portfolios, to do this efficiently, both at the level of lighthouses, but also at the level of the mission. And this can obviously also include already the links with the current work program and the topics and actions that are part of it, but also for the future work programs.
Okay, thank you very much. That was also very clear. So now the next question is for Annette, because it is on the soil mission. What type of projects will be part of the mission on soil over the time?
Yes, I think that like any comprehensive program, we will deploy all the instruments. So the mission will provide funding for innovation actions, for research innovation actions, coordination support actions, and also will foresee prizes and rewards. This is particularly interesting for the part on communication and citizen engagement. And you see already in the topic, there's a part where we ask applicants or the proposals to look for good practices in communication and design rewarding mechanisms or reward best examples. I just would like to add to the previous question on the CSAs, we will have at the beginning of the program a couple of coordination actions to build capacities. And in that context, it's important that regions are also aware that they are really requested to take part in these coordination actions, to exchange good practices then, because as we move on or build up slowly the mission and the living labs, we need to be really, let's say, in a dynamic mood to exchange what works and what doesn't. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much, Annette. So now let's move to the other question. This would be for Neville, because it's on horizontal aspects. Is there a need for the consortium to collaborate with consortia of the thematic mission topics? Please, Neville.
No, I don't see it like that. I mean, when you say collaborate, you mean in some sort of formal sense, some sort of contractually derived thing. No, I don't see it like that. Of course, in the interests of transparency, we've had relatively few actions in this mini work program, which we've just launched. You would expect this network to be very much aware of all of the other actions which are being developed there. I mean, that's their job. You know, the job would be to be on top of this picture of how the emissions are evolving and the potential roles, contributions that could be made on a national level. But I don't see any formal need for the collaboration to take place, as I think the question is asking.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Neville. So the next question is for Annette on the soil mission. Should the CSA contain research on soil monitoring? Advancing research is not normally the role of CSA, but the sentence in the topic seems to indicate otherwise.
So the topic is not about monitoring itself. This would be not possible with the budget available and the instrument, as you rightly point out. However, starting from the let's say, the basis that we're looking at the needs in the regions and member states. The CSA is requested to look, to prepare the ground for monitoring. So this means looking into which kind of indicators would be needed to monitor the emission effectively, and are there harmonized indicators available? If not, what is the alternative, let's say? Are there thresholds? So it's a bit of mapping the need for monitoring in the next step. This is what we expect with this action. And this is why we say in the topic, improve the knowledge base required to assess progress in monitoring. So it's a bit of going the step before, looking at what kind of data we do have and which ones we don't have to advance further in the next topic. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Annette. Very clear. So the next question was actually asked in relation to the ocean mission, but it has some horizontal components. So I would like to ask Neville, maybe if he can say if the third countries can take part in consortia applying for the missions.
I think it's quite simple. The missions are special, but they're not so special that we have a whole set of new rules for them. So the rules for participation, which apply for Horizon Europe concerning third-party involvement, they're exactly the same. So yes, but subject to what those rules are, and I don't have them exactly in front of me.
Yes, thank you, Neville. And another one also for you. How can we partner up in missions? How to become a lighthouse location, for example? We are situated in the far north of Norway.
I suspect that probably isn't for me, that one. I don't really have an answer for that, I'm afraid to say. Norway is an associated country. How can you partner up? I think the answer has something to do with NCPs and something like this. But I'm happy if you send me your answer directly to pass it on to the individuals concerned, and maybe they can give you a personal reply on this.
Yes, thank you, Neville. And indeed, in case you still see some unanswered questions, you can always address them to the Research Inquiry Service or to liaise with your NCPs, as Neville has just mentioned. So the next one would be for Helena, and it's on the ocean missions. Is it expected that there is a strong link to the upcoming partnership in sustainable blue economy, taking into account that the objectives are quite overlapping? Please, Helena.
Thank you. I think I have already partially answered this question. So indeed, it is expected that the mission and the partnership would build very strong links, particularly exploring synergies between them in terms of research, innovation, also implementation, so that information, experience, and so on are exchanged and passed on between them. So indeed, the answer is yes.
Thank you, Helena. And I would like to ask you to stay because the next one is also for you. How many lighthouses do you envisage for each of the mission objectives? One, some, or many?
Well, that depends how you define many and some. No, I think we can, the question was already in a way answered in the presentation. So for the objective 1, we envisage in principle 2 lighthouses. Please note that we are talking about basin scale lighthouses. So these are very large areas. And within those lighthouses, there would be many different projects implemented. So it's not just one demonstration site or single tiny area that we have in mind here. For objective 2, we're envisaging 1 or equally basin scale lighthouse, and for objective 3, 1 basin scale lighthouse. So again, reiterating that within these large areas, many different projects and actions would be taking place, and many demonstration sites would be implemented.
Yes, thank you very much, Helena. Another one for you. Is the development, testing, and piloting of methodologies at a theoretical level or demonstrators should be developed within the CSA using the 5 million budget?
So as the topic is formulated, it is not purely at the theoretical level because we are seeking methodologies that would be tested already and piloted. So indeed, this would have to be, these methodologies would have to be tested and piloted on the ground, preferably within the mission demonstrators in the future also. So there would be links with the future demonstrators, which we would hope that this would establish.
Yes, thank you very much. Then the next one, maybe you can also very briefly reply. Does the EC expect national hubs in each member state as an already existing basis?
It's clear that these hubs do not yet exist in many member states, so we do not expect them to exist before the works start, of course. But the expectation would be that over time, these hubs in whichever form as necessary and appropriate would be established to support the missions. And I think it's also a subject of one of the general topics. So if Neville wants to complement, please feel free.
Yes, thank you very much, Helena. And the last one in the row for you. Consortium composition expected by the EC, scientific experts to produce recommendations for the demonstrators, research administrators.
So in terms of this question, which basically goes into the experience that is needed in order to manage the topic well, we would be looking for multiple experience. So you see that the topic is pretty multidisciplinary. Not only actual experience with setting up and running of demonstration sites or lighthouses, but also experience with citizen engagement and methodologies for citizen engagement, for assemblies, citizen assemblies, and how to develop those, for running networks, both of lighthouses and citizen assemblies. So this requires multiple different experiences in many different areas, as rich as possible so that we get good results.
Thank you, very clear. So now we have a more general question. This would be for Neville. How many resources will be reserved for the mission's work program and in particular for the ocean and soil mission overall?
Okay. The big total is reasonably clear because I think people will recall that it says in the legal text there should be up to 10% of the pillar 2, which is basically the cluster pillar of Horizon Europe, to missions. The figure works out around about 2 billion, 2.1 billion, I think, something like that for those first 3 years. So you divide that by 3 and you see the total, which then will be divided between all of those 5 missions. We've done a lot of work to make sure that the actual allocation fits the different needs of the missions. So there's no there's no reason why each mission should have the same R&I budget in principle. In fact, they turn out to be rather similar. The final figures are still being talked about. There's a little bit of clarification needed still to make sure that we get the right balance between the missions, and also to ensure that the respective clusters understand what's taking place and agree to what's taking place. So the clusters, in effect, of course, will be contributing money to these missions. So that's ongoing and should be settled in the next weeks. So I can't give you a precise figure on that, but I'll give you that global.
Yes, thank you very much, Neville. So now again, one question on the ocean mission. Is the CSA expected to serve as the overarching network for following the implementation of the mission activities?
Thank you, Teresa. So for this question, the CSA is expected to deliver very important methodologies for the mission, key methodologies for running the lighthouses, for other mission activities, and in particular for citizen engagement and for citizen assemblies. So I'm not entirely sure what you mean by overarching network, but the CSA is not expected to put in place the actual networks of citizen assemblies. We're looking at this stage for tested and piloted methodologies.
Thank you, Helena. So another question. Thanks very much. We have many questions. So let's go quickly to the next one. This would be for Annette on the soil mission. Will the mission on soil and future activities include forest soils?
Me too. So thank you very much for that question, because this needs to be stressed repeatedly. The soil mission is not just about agricultural soils. We want to address forest soils, natural soils, and soils in urban areas. This is really at the core of the mission. So in all activities, also in the CSAs, we highlight that the data, the information, and the actions should include all land uses, including forests. And maybe in addition to Neville's previous question on living labs, lighthouses, and also for the soil and I think also oceans mission, associated countries like Norway and others, of course, we're very happy if you're also set up structures such as living labs. You're totally entitled as any other applicant in the EU as well. And the networking will also take place with all the partners involved in the project, in Europe and even beyond. So this is important to say. Yes, I leave it there.
Yes, thank you very much, Annette. And I would directly go to the next one because we are coming closely to the end. So how will the missions articulate with the EIT and, for instance, EIT Food for the soil mission, which share similar features?
Yeah, but we're actually very, very much in touch with both EIT Kids Food and Climate. Both, for example, have actions on carbon farming, which the mission on soils also is foreseeing. So we're exchanging information on the content, on the sites that they are using, the farmers concretely, and we will use, of course, as much as we can, their experiences, and vice versa, whatever comes out of the mission will be also used by EITs. So it's very, very close cooperation.
Yes. Indeed. Thank you very much, Annette. And I suggest we take a last question, given the time, which is of horizontal nature. And I think it's very interesting for all of us. How long are these preparatory CSAs supposed to last? For the whole duration of the mission or just for the first years? Please, Neville, if you can reply to that.
Sorry, not for the whole duration of the mission. These are just the first years, of course, although there may be further actions in a similar style developed at a later stage. That's, as we have the update of the work program later this year and next year, and there will be further work programs, that doesn't rule out that some of these horizontal aspects would be continued.
Yes. Thank you very much, Neville. So I'm afraid we need to stop here as we are running out of time. Let me just remind you that the unanswered questions can be addressed after the info days to the Research Inquiry Service through the Funding and Tenders portal. We will be happy to reply them in writing. And also the more general questions might have been already answered yesterday. So we invite you also to check the recordings from yesterday. So on this, I would like to thank all the participants for having followed our session and for your pertinent questions. We hope that this session has been interesting and useful for you. And we are very happy that so many of you joined us today and that you have asked so many questions. I guess that it only reflects the importance and ambitions and the expectations of this new instrument. So big thanks also to our speakers for the presentations and answers, to the colleagues who prepared this session, both on the organizational and technical side. And on this, I close, and we all wish you all the best of luck for the preparations of your proposals.
Thank you very much. Pleased to have been here.